Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. I'm Jacob Smith. I'm an engagement associate with MXD. I'm going to get us kicked off here. So thanks again for joining. We are here to talk about delivering modern manufacturing outcomes with AI at the edge with our co-sponsor here, Google Cloud. Before we begin, I just wanted to do a couple of housekeeping items. So if you experience any technical difficulties or would like to communicate with MXD staff or fellow attendees during the webinar, please use the chat box in your GoToWebinar panel. In addition, please feel free to submit any questions you may have throughout the webinar. We will be taking audience questions toward the end if time allows. Otherwise, we'll follow up after with some answers to your questions. And finally, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be making the video and slides available on our platforms in the coming weeks. And with that out of the way, I'd like to just briefly introduce our partner organizations who are helping us out with the webinar today. So you'll see up on the screen here, Fabian Dubuff, Manufacturing Industry Manager at Google Cloud, Dario Salisticker, Senior Product Manager, at Google Distributed Cloud with, you guessed it, Google Cloud. And then Derek Bliley, VP of Products at ClearObject. So that's our partner organizations. And then I'd also like to introduce our CTO here at MXD, Federico Ciamarella. He's going to give us just a couple quick notes about who MXD is and then get us kicked off here with our program. So Federico, if you'd like to turn your camera on and get us started here. There you are.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Super excited. Webinars were something we did quite a bit many years ago, so it's exciting to be back and be doing this webinar with all of you. Let's get this presentation started. So really, for those that may not know, we are MXD, which stands for Manufacturing Times Digital. We are the nation's digital manufacturing and cybersecurity institute. So what do? We strengthen national security and economic prosperity by increasing U.S. manufacturing competitiveness by advancing adoption of digital manufacturing. Let's go to the next slide. I want to just highlight what Manufacturing USA is. We're a part of that. This was started back after 2008 economic collapse. President Obama really saw the need to drive innovation across our manufacturing industry. There are 17 manufacturing innovation institutes in all, 9 which are funded and sponsored by the Department of Defense, of which we are one of them. There are 7 that are funded by the Department of Energy, and Nimble, as you see there in the bottom right corner, which is sponsored by Department of Commerce. There will be 2 additional institutes coming over the next year, one focused on digital twins for semiconductor manufacturing, as well as one in AI for manufacturing resilience. This ecosystem is here to help you, the manufacturers, understand how to leverage these technologies, and really want to focus on the next slide what MXD does specifically to help manufacturers drive adoption for digital manufacturing. First and most important is convening the ecosystem, much like with this webinar today, bringing in the experts to talk about the issues facing manufacturers, in this case, understanding cloud and how to leverage these technologies with AI at the edge. So I'm really looking forward to our partners speaking towards that. The second is by advancing technology, innovation, and adoption. So as we explain these technologies, as we understand through our convening what the issues are, we will fund projects to support the development of those adoption capabilities and provide manufacturers with those requisite skill sets. And finally, we empower our workforce. We look to the future of what manufacturing holds. We have 2 hiring guides that describe over 400 roles in manufacturing for digital and cybersecurity. And we really look to defining what those skill sets are and the requirements. So as we hear about today, AI and other things, how are those roles critical to where manufacturers need to be and what are the skill sets required? So as I said, today it's really about understanding cloud, leveraging the tools, and we're so excited to have our partners. I now would like to introduce Dario, who's going to talk a little bit about what Google is doing in this space. Dario, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Federico. Can we go to next? Okay. So manufacturers today face several challenges that modern technology, particularly cloud, edge computing, and generative AI, can help address. First, many manufacturing sectors are experiencing significant labor shortages. Edge computing can enable real-time monitoring and optimization of manufacturing processes, reducing the need for manual intervention. Generative AI can reduce training times and improve performance by facilitating sharing best practices across workers. It can also automate some repetitive tasks, freeing up people for more complex and valuable roles. Second, ensuring consistent product quality is a constant challenge for manufacturers. Edge computing can enable real-time quality inspections and adjustment on the production line. This could be coupled with generative AI to analyze vast amount of production data to identify patterns and anomalies that might indicate quality issues, with the natural language interface allowing for early intervention and prevention. Third, manufacturers are under increasing pressure to reduce their environmental impact. Edge computing platforms can track and analyze energy consumption and emissions data, which coupled with generative AI can help in identifying improvement opportunities to optimize processes and minimize waste and resource consumption. Finally, as manufacturers adopt more connected technologies, they become increasingly vulnerable to cyber attacks. Cloud providers offer robust security features to protect sensitive data and systems. However, edge computing can isolate critical production processes from the wider network, reducing even further the risk of disruption from a cyber attack. Next slide, please. So, how Google is helping to solve these issues? Google Distributed Cloud is a cloud-native platform for running applications on the edge. It is fully managed with a centralized management plane, providing a unified approach for developing and running solutions across cloud and on-premises. This helps to extend the cloud while reducing TCO for on-prem operations. It is deployable across a hybrid topology with integrated security and compliance for transport, apps, data, and access management. Our manufacturing customers are leveraging Google's scale and expertise to modernize their infrastructure in an agile and cost-efficient manner. They are also leveraging our rich partner ecosystem, like ClearObject, who have a permanent demo running on Google Distributed Cloud at MXD. Derek will share now more details about their solutions.
Yeah, thanks, Dario. Appreciate it. As Dario mentions, we're a Google Premier partner, so we're leveraging Google technologies, some of our own software to really deliver end-to-end AI solutions. I thought, what better way to kind of show what we're talking about here in this webinar than an actual demonstration. This demonstration, I'd recommend anyone go see. It's running live at the MXD facility. In this, you're seeing our AI software from ClearObject running on the Google Distributed Cloud Edge hardware. In this instance, we've used our software to customize an AI model. In this instance, it's interactive demo, which is doing a few things, ultimately identifying these cans in the line, the distance between those in real time, as well as the defects. You can interactively kind of add some defects. In this same demonstration, you can see how that information is leveraged in a hybrid architecture with Google Cloud, leveraging the Cortex framework where data is being seamlessly presented back to a user in a way that they can leverage generative AI technology to ask questions about that information, minimizing the need to have that operator really understand how to perform a structured data query or an understanding of even the overall database structure itself, or the customization of BI dashboards for every edge use case. And we're seeing operators who are partners deliver these solutions in real time delivering value of over a 500% ROI. We've seen reduction in CO2 emissions, all by leveraging edge-based technology. The second demonstration that's going to be pulled up here is just another example of how there's a broad range of application. This example specifically demonstrates in a manufacturing process around granite. You might look at this and say, okay, well, how's a AI system going to help me here? In this case, you can think that the heat from the flame, the cooling from the water, and the line speed can impact the overall quality of that. Operator, our customer in this case, wanted to really understand how can I measure this, right? This is an old piece of technology. I don't have software. We implemented with an edge-based vision system that allowed that operator in real time to understand both the flame intensity, the water percentage, and line speed. With an automated process control where you can actually take the insights from this edge system, tie that directly to a PLC for either operator driven action or, like I said, automated process control where that PLC is actually making changes to that. Leveraging the Google Cloud platform, and again, the Cortex framework, you could think about how you might introduce a few of these systems across your line, leveraging both vision, other standard hardware sensors, pulling all of that information in and providing an insights back to users. Similar back to that first demonstration where then you can provide generative AI solutions as well that allow your operators to understand what's happening. These are just a few examples. Like I said, there's broad range that we're seeing across many industries of manufacturing for this solution. I'll hand it back to Frederico as we get started here with some of the panel discussion.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, and I'll invite all the panelists to get on camera. I'm really excited to start this conversation with all of you to discuss how we deliver modern manufacturing outcomes with AI at the edge. We're going to focus on use cases, modernizing infrastructure, AI, and security, and then we're going to wrap up with what the future will bring. And I have to say, we've had a really good discussion between the four of us leading up to the event, talking about what are the issues, obstacles, and possibilities. So, Fabian, I want to start with you. What does that modern manufacturing center look like? And how should decision makers prioritize use cases for them?
Yeah, thank you, Federico. So, first we understand what modern manufacturing center is. Is it meaning some of customers are out of date manufacturing? I don't think so. What I think is like we need to understand how they can apply and this technology, this advanced technology to innovate. Like you said, when you made the introduction on what the objective at MXD is. And this is why we chose to be present at MXD with our partner here, ClearObject, and display and showcase some of this capability that Derek showed you in the video. Dario summarized really well what the challenge that these manufacturing company are facing to become more modern. So typically we'll focus on understanding where they're starting from. So when we sit down with the customer, what are the objectives that they might have in terms of transforming their business? It could be a very specific niche solution that they're looking at, like visual inspection, or it could be a full digital strategy that they want to put in place. So we'll start there, and then we'll show them how they can apply some of these technology like edge computing or AI at the edge to solve some of these problems. So I would think most of the things that our customer bring to us are around quality control. So you notice that the video of Derek helps the workforce to be connected to what's happening in real time. The beauty of edge computing paired with, let's say, private 5G is going to be enabling the manufacturing company to gain a lot of insight of what's happening at the equipment level, but share in real time and translate that insight of what's happening at the equipment level to a worker that could have started a week ago. And with that knowledge that is gained, what they're gaining is agility and speed. Okay, because today they're doing it. The problem, they're doing it with MES system, PLM system, ERP system, QMS system, LIM system. It's all good, except we can accelerate with the advent of edge computing. You understand? We are delivering, just to be clear, we're delivering Google Cloud on-prem. Google
Yeah.
Distributed Cloud is Google Cloud in your facility. So you're getting the way we design those chips, the way we do the workload with AI on those chips. They've been trained, and the performance of the chip is 30% more efficient than anything else out there. So you're getting on your ESG goal. So I'm going to stop here, but it's
Yeah.
all up to the customer to tell us, I have a cost optimization problem. I have, warehousing and inventory. So then
Yeah.
we'll start looking how we can deploy the solution. Thank you.
No, that's a great point. It's as we see, and often when we have visitors at MXC, right, start with what the problem is. And I don't know, Derek, there may be some other things. I know you talked about ROI and showed that a little bit, but what are some other things that decision makers have to do to prioritize with the use cases?
Yeah, it's a great topic. Customers a lot of times, they're coming to us. Here's our problems. Hey, you guys are the experts. Help us put a solution together. But really, hey, the first question we always ask, okay, based on those problems, how do we start to prioritize those? All the customers are looking for those, hey, high value, low effort, right? And so that's where a lot of this technology enables a lot of those solutions where that effort has really gone down. So the Google distributed, the GDC and its technology really enabling edge-based analytics to become more readily available to those customers is really important. And when we talk with some of those customers, they are now starting to talk about, hey, what does a modern use case look like in 2030 when we talk about lights out manufacturing? What is that going to require, right? And we talk about, well, you're going to need edge computing. Not all this, both security and bandwidth and everything else, right? All this information can't be going just to the cloud. We've got to think about what makes sense to really be occurring there. In those demonstrations that you saw, what's happening in the edge is the insights that are needed directly for those operators to make decisions. That's really where we try to help our customers understand. That's when we talk about edge, that's what you want. You want to drive those actions that are, need real time analytics to be done so that the actions can be taken, whether by operator or, like we discussed, automated process control. The visualization through a web application, like you did see, that's more of a web based, that could be distributed to anyone. Again, with the Google technology, that allows anyone else around the globe can see how this manufacturing facility, that's where I talked about the lights out, right? A centralized location, understanding how things are performing. You can see exactly what that AI system is doing, which also helps with adoption, right? It's no longer a black box, but ultimately a better understanding of what that edge-based system is doing.
Great. All right. So from use cases, we'll move to the next theme, to modernizing infrastructure, often a scary topic. So Dario, what are some of the ways that manufacturers can approach this challenge when they're thinking about modernizing, what that means? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned earlier, Google couples a fully managed offering where we are bringing our scale and expertise, and even take care of remotely monitoring your infrastructure with a rich partner ecosystem that brings proven solutions for different verticals, not just manufacturing. But this enables manufacturers to embrace these transformational efforts, but at the same time reduce the complexity and the time it takes to modernize their infrastructure. At the end, this results in a higher success rate, much quicker realization of benefits, and going forward, a lower TCO too.
Great. And Derek, maybe also, because you've dealt with it with some of the use cases, what are some of the things that you see that are helpful for manufacturers to approach understanding how to modernize?
Yeah. So, again, this goes back to what is the problem and what are the phases of which we can help solve that problem. So I definitely say, hey, you don't have to tackle, modernizing your entire infrastructure. Recommend starting, hey, one use case, right? Let's solve that one use case. Let's understand what is the hardware required for that given use case. With the idea of knowing, okay, what we put in place has to be scalable. So as we start to roll this out, it works. that is benefit of the GDC, right? You've got all of the backing of Google, really making sure that we can run those and it scales as required, providing all the hardware and infrastructure as necessary to run these systems. And then, a big thing that we see specifically based here in the Midwest is a lot of our customers have old equipment, right? 100-year-old equipment. They don't want to invest in brand new $1 million plus capital just to get the latest technology. And we tell them that that's no longer needed, right? With a lot of this leveraging, the GDC, our solutions based on top of that really allows you to get the latest and greatest capabilities from a lot of these systems using your standard cameras, hardware sensors, combining that technology with these edge analytics. So now your old equipment, you have an understanding of how it's operating. You can make sure you know how to operate that equipment using all of that greatest new tech that we've provided on the old equipment.
Yeah, that is something that, again, we show here on the floor, and not just in the space where Google's at, but really showing how legacy equipment can be used and capturing that data. And I think this goes well with our next theme around AI, and I'll start with you, Fabian. But thinking about that, knowing that we talk about this, what are some of the ways that customers can innovate with AI, right? Because it's one thing to kind of do one or twos or these pilots, but really as we think about that and we're modernizing and talking to folks about the importance of data, maybe just some examples of how people are starting to innovate with that.
Yes. So the first thing in innovation is like, are we allowing the manufacturing company to meet their customers' expectation? So that means, again, can we allow them to get faster to meet the requirement of the customer? Can they be nimble? So if the customer change, or let's say they want custom order of something, and there's a change order or very small unit of one, they're going to need to be able to make real-time decision. So again, going back to the worker, like Derek mentioned, if somebody has old equipment, you can still leverage, edge computing and AI to learn if a worker is adding value or no value to the process itself. So there's a lot of analysis that you can now run at the edge that previously you couldn't do. You didn't know what was happening after the production start until the product is finished. It's able to analyze what is happening at the production line level based on what the humans are performing. You can leverage that computer vision for safety purpose, or protecting your assets, protecting even your IP. There's a lot of things that you can do that will allow you to optimize that production process. Then if you think about this, can you feed this back in that information to whoever designed the product so that they understand that it might create some bottleneck at the manufacturing level? And then ideally, what you want to leverage is, obviously, all these technology added to one another are going to really make a really big transformation. So now you do edge computing, AI at the edge, you do cloud and analysis, cloud computing, you're able to create that framework and reach that industry 4.0 nirvana, the digital thread where everything is connected. Ideally, obviously, there is a lot more that's happening in a manufacturing plant and a factory. There is a lot of things regarding material flow, human, and warehousing and inventory. You might be bringing some AGV, an autonomous vehicle. You might leverage, edge computing to be able to run all of this. Now, let's go even further. At one point, you'll talk about virtual PLC. So we're starting seeing this where you can create a virtual PLC and have it sit at the edge, run your factory with just basically that pizza box. Okay, so there is at one point a need where the physical hardware is gonna kind of like become less relevant.
Yeah.
So,
no, super exciting. And Derek, maybe just something that caught my eye in your second presentation, or the first one, that 50% reduction in CO2. Maybe talk a little bit about energy management as it pertains to AI or some other applications. That really got me excited.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great area. It's one that we're proud to, be able to stand behind in Google as well. Of really of, where that came into is understanding, hey, how are we using raw materials, and how can I optimize the usage of some of those raw materials and the energy that's used in my manufacturing process. And so when I talk about, hey, where are the areas that customers can innovate with AI, that's a key starting area. What is the process that how do you understand the process and how it's behaving today? What are the variables within that? How well are those being measured? Can we improve the way that they're being measured? Can we also improve the way of how often we're creating a model that identifies the most optimal state? We run with a lot of customers who maybe they built a regression model that they've used now for years and it's been that state, rather than being able to do something that's dynamic that can change with the variables of those conditions. That's really one key area that we're seeing a lot of people innovate with AI. I think some of the other areas that you see is a lot around quality control. Talking to operators, hey, where can I apply AI? I say, hey, where do you have a set of eyes within your process today? Whether that's 100% quality inspection, or if it's samples every 15 minutes, someone's going to check something. Hey, you could put a vision system there that's now capturing 100% of those. So now you've got full quality, full audit check capability that sits on top of those. And then the final place that we're really seeing, as people start to take advantage of these new edge analytic systems, as Google makes it easier to develop your models, we're focused a lot on the productionization of those models. There's new data coming out of those, leveraging the Cortex frameworks, bringing all that data together again back in a cloud environment, where we're now seeing models on top of models. So AI is using now the outputs of these new state-of-the-art vision systems with some of your other data that you have from ordering to now try to optimize based on how do you want to create the best throughput. So really exciting times of where, I would say everywhere within your organization is probably has an opportunity to apply AI.
Oh, that's great. And I think it's a perfect segue into our next theme, which is security, right? And we'll talk about cyber. Certainly, as the National Center for Cybersecurity and Manufacturing, MXD, we think about that a lot. But maybe start with you, Dario, and talk about, what are some of the things that you've done to approach or help approach this challenge of security? Maybe give us some examples.
Sure, yes. Well, Google is well known for having one of the best security practices in the industry, right? So we leverage our expertise in the cybersecurity space and ensure that all our offerings consider security as an integral part of them, right? It's not just as an add-on or an afterthought. So we are also in Google Distributed Cloud providing different features and operational models like boundary proxy and bastion host, something that is unique to our offering, to give customers full control on their data. So they can audit what data is being pushed to the cloud or leaving their premises, and approve or remove previous approvals on specific data items, or even have a break glass feature to stop any remote access to their on-prem infrastructure to keep a kind of peace of mind. Finally, our product family can support different deployment models, right? From connected deployments to fully air-gapped solutions, where the entire infrastructure is disconnected from Google Cloud or internet, right? If the customer prefers so, for additional security. We saw some sectors that need to ensure that no external actor could even get access to their data or infrastructure, right? And for them, we are offering a Google Distributed Cloud air-gap solution, which includes an operational center that is completely isolated from the cloud or from internet. It's kind of a cloud in a box type of solution that could run completely isolated from the rest of the world if the customer decides or needs that.
That's great. Fabian, anything you want to add? Because I think that is an important part, right? That physical security, right? The OT side, which we often manufacturers forget. Hey, PLCs, they can get hacked, right? We demonstrate that on the
Yes.
floor. So anything else you want to add to that in terms of security?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the virtual PLC coming. But
Yeah.
like what obviously what Dario says is very important. It all depends on the customer and the use case. Obviously there'll be most of the case are going to be a hybrid environment,
Hmm.
and also the cybersecurity offering from that Dario mentioned is very unique in the industry, where we're able to actually monitor your network traffic and protect your OT environment. So we actually at MXD, we just put together a live demo of our cybersecurity offering. So allowing you to not only deploy things like edge computing, fully air gap or not, but then also monitor the traffic to protect your OT environment and prevent from a ransomware attack from happening, because we can detect it and then shut down everything that needs to be done and remediate and trace back to maybe the attacker. So it's part of the entire offering. So security is definitely one of the key differentiator that we offer. I'm glad you brought it up, and I'll give it back to you now. Thank you.
Great. No, that's perfect. And I think this is exciting because we're getting to the last piece, right? When you're having fun, time flies. We want to leave some time for questions. So before I get to this last one, just a reminder, as Jacob mentioned, please, if you have any questions or comments that you want the panelists to talk about, just type them in and I'll get to them. But before that, let's start with the future, right? Our last theme. What are some of your priorities looking ahead through 2024 and beyond in terms of this capabilities of these things that we've talked about? And maybe Derek, I'll start with you. Uh, just excited to hear what your priorities are and what you're looking for towards the end of this year and next year.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, as we all know. AI is a great buzzword these days, and the one of the things that has me excited a lot about with some of the I'll talk about just generative AI capability and how that applies potentially even for things like this, where we talk about vision. One of the key problems that we see as you're generating adoption for these systems is the ability to capture enough data to train a model to get to a performant level. With some of the latest and greatest generative AI capabilities, the ability to generate images, what we may call synthetic data, is becoming more and more real. I think that's really exciting to be able to demonstrate and create defects that maybe are rare examples, but allow you to now create many variations of that that allow you to get to a higher performant model more quickly. I think that's really exciting for the later half of 2024 and beyond of what that's doing. I think more specifically, what are we, as a partner focused on a lot about, just being able to seamlessly create that interoperability between systems, leveraging, again, back to the Cortex, what some people may have already heard is manufacturing data engine, manufacturing connect, all of those really just focusing on how seamlessly can we make it so that you're collecting and keeping that data in a good quality state. I know it's the old adage, but garbage in, garbage out still applies. So this technology that really brings that all together, helps you control that data, can't be underestimated. So those things are some of the things that got me excited, what we're looking forward to in the later half of this year. I mean, Dario, I don't know if you guys have some more to add to that.
Yeah,
Yes,
no, Dario.
definitely. We will continue investing in developing our platform, our Google Distributed Cloud platform, and also AI building blocks and AI features, right? So we want to democratize the technology or the AI technology by reducing barriers of entry for our customers to simplify adoption of new technology, new use cases. We are also working on helping them to deploy these solutions provided by customers like ClearObject with an integrated marketplace where customers could shop for ready-made solutions and do a single-click deployment on their infrastructure. And then we are also integrating generative AI to how to manage, how to operate our infrastructure. So it's easier for customers to optimize their solutions, right, on running on our platform.
Great. Fabian?
Yeah, I'll conclude by saying basically all we're doing is making that data accessible and useful. So it's going back to what you said earlier. At MXD, you focus on making advanced technology easy to adopt for this manufacturing company. This is why we chose to be here, empowering the workforce, making sure that they can take an action because they now understand what's happening. So think about all these. We talk about this all the time. All of these workers that are retiring. Let's say if I'm retiring next week, you might want to capture my knowledge in case you find it useful. And now, with the power of what we bring to the table, you can record audio, video, unstructured data, analyze it, make it accessible for the next employee coming in. And now it's all something that they can access, but it's now useful because it's structuring the data for you, it's making it interactive so that you can ask a question, and then let's say I'm facing a piece of equipment like this, and I can interrogate it, be able to optimize the use of the equipment, which means optimize the line. And that's all is the focus. The focus is to really understand where this customer is starting from, and now we can show him by bringing the customer to MXD. We've had, I think, over 2,000 visitors in our booth this year, which is very exciting. And then once they see it, it's a haha moment for them. I mean, we have existing customers that came who told us we didn't know we could do all of this with you. And then we had customers who've never interacted with Google Cloud who are now deploying our solution. So extremely excited about the partnership. Thank you, Federico and Jacob, for having us. And hopefully there's a few questions.
Yeah, in fact, I think this is a perfect segue to the question, which I'm sure is on the mind of a lot of folks. So you talk about old equipment still being able to use edge computing. What kind of investment is needed to get that started? I think that's very valid, right? Because costs are real, and understanding there is investment in that, what's the return and all that. But maybe Derek or whomever wants to take that first. I think it's understanding how much of an investment, what kind of investment is needed to get started.
Yeah. I think the simplest way to answer that, I always tell people, it's a new car, it's not a new house, right? So I think that tries to put it in a general ballpark of what you're talking about. The in new car, probably on the lower end of that. There ultimately there's the hardware that's needed. That can be from a minimal level to, it just depends on the feasibility. But ultimately, I'd say, hey, you're talking, you know, 20 to 50,000, I'd say, right? Is your general, that's hardware, services, everything to really get started and start to demonstrate the feasibility. Typically we see the outputs of those as not only a demonstration of the feasibility, but also a nice solution architecture with the, what's the path forward? What does this look like at full implementation? Understanding of your costs so that you can make informed decisions of how you roll this out across your organization.
Yeah, I think, sorry, just real quick, Dario, because I think that's important and I want to hear what you have to say. I also want to add, as we talk about this all the time, this is a journey, right? There's not a destination, right? So whatever you invest now, it will pay in the long run, but you have to be committed and you have to make sure you have the entire company under consideration, right? We did a study for the FDA on barriers to driving digital adoption. We did it for 10 top pharmaceutical manufacturers. And actually only 2 came out on top of really ahead in digital transformation. And I'll spoil it here. I was going to ask for who thinks what they did first. It was actually change management. They focused on change management first, then did the technology. And that takes investment as well. And people often forget that. So So I just want to bring that up. Dario, I'll turn it over to you. And I know, Fabian, you're passionate about that as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. But Dario, please go ahead.
Yeah, but following with the car example that Derek, or analogy that Derek mentioned, we are also have the option of lease the car or buy the car, right? So Google Distributed Cloud could be leased on a monthly fee or purchased. Upfront payment for the hardware and then paying for the service. And then the service include our system reliability engineers that remotely monitor the hardware. So you don't need to build a team that has to get some expertise for the platform. You can leverage our SRE team that remotely manage the hardware or the infrastructure, including software patches, system updates, etc., and our partner ecosystem that brings the expertise on managing their solutions.
Great. Fabian, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, oh yes, but I agree completely with what you said, and you brought up, by the way, on the change management and having support from executive. Usually that start with this, because if not, it's gonna fail or it's gonna be really slow at succeeding. But outside of this, I like what Dario mentioned, the flexibility. So we're really an open platform. You know, we bring partner to the table. We'll package whatever you need with the solution of the partner. And, you know, you can think about even applying no code, low code application at the edge, which then suddenly the worker at the plant level can create their own application so they can get access to the data they need in real time. So there's a lot of things that comes with it, this solution, but then the customer can also apply it to themselves to provide a service to their own customer. So there's a lot of things that you can do with all this technology. All it is like bring us obviously the problem and to our partner and ourselves and sit down with us at MXD. We'll kind of do a design thinking workshop and show you all the options that you have. And it could be aligning with your digital strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, like we do with most of our customer, or figure out a very specific problem that you might have in the production process that needs to be solved because you're incurring $50 million of, you know, scrap a year. So that's always a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I really appreciate it. I know we've got some more questions that we'll hopefully get back to you if you've posted one, because we're running out of time here. I just wanted to thank our panelists. This has been a great discussion. I know, Fabian, you've said it. Definitely for those that can come visit Chicago, visit MXD, visit the space here that Google has. It's really amazing once you get to see it. As you said, the light bulb goes off, and that's what we're really here for, is to help you think about, you're manufacturing what you do. We're here to help you enable that. So really appreciate the conversation today. So thank you, Derek. Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Fabian. This has been a great conversation. Jacob, I'm going to turn it back over to you to wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Federico. Thanks again for our panelists here as well. And thank you to the audience for participating and sending in your questions. It makes for a much better conversation. So appreciate your time and attention as well. With that said, just wanted to mention a couple other upcoming programs we have. So if you enjoyed this webinar, we hope you join us at some of these as well. So we have an upcoming technology summit focused on quantum for manufacturing, and then a couple other events coming up here as well, partnership with Dow and EY talking through sustainability in manufacturing, and then finally our annual member summit combined with a little special event this year for MXD's 10-year anniversary. So we hope you'll join us for some of these events. You can visit mxdusa.org/events to register for those. And then finally, just keep up with us on our social media platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. Will help you to stay in touch on those as well. But that said, just again, wanted to thank you for joining the webinar, and thanks again to our panelists, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.